At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
Good morning and welcome to the HR Morning Show, the number one spot for all things HR all morning long. It is Tuesday morning. We're looking at Serge and his new puppy, Duke. Welcome to the show.
Isn't he so cute?
So cute. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is for anyone who doesn't know, it's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. I know much about them because I really want a dog, but I don't have one because that would be really irresponsible. But Serge, what was the inspiration behind getting this puppy?
Well, I have 3 little girls that love puppies and have been wanting a puppy for the last 4 years, and I finally caved. A lot of research. When I saw Duke the first time, I fell in love. So now Duke is my boy. I needed some male energy in the household, and I got it, right?
I feel that. That's what always happens with the dads. The dads have this like hard feeling like, oh, we're never going to get a dog. Like it's not going to
Yeah.
happen. And then you see the puppy and they're the ultimate lover boys to the dog. So
It's so true because exactly the same situation happened to my dad. When I was a kid, I really wanted a dog, begged for it, finally got it. My dad was against it. And within, like, I would say a month, like that dog went everywhere with him, like would ride shotgun in the truck and like
oh my
all the fun
gosh.
stuff. And he loved that dog. So I think you're right. I think this is exactly what's going to happen. It's interesting because my twins are 6 and my oldest is 10, and they've been promising that they would do everything, right? Like bring him outside, clean up after him, feed him, train him.
You're doing
We're,
it all.
we're a weekend and I'm doing most of it, but
Oh my gosh. Well,
and he wanted to chill, so I'm gonna have him for a portion of the show here. But he's so cute. Like
he's
I think
so cute.
we needed a third co-host. So
We
Duke,
did. We needed a third co-host. Duke was willing to step up and he's here. He's with us. So thank you so much, Duke. Don't forget to head over to purpleacornnetwork.com. This is a podcast. We're doing this live and it's Tuesday morning, November 18th. 18 is a great number, by the way. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. We're a podcast. You got your podcasts every Tuesday. Also, I have to check now. Did we make it
we
to
did make it. We're
2000?
over 2,000. We're
Oh,
over 2,000.
let's go. It's the Duke blessing. It's the Duke blessing. We made it. 2000. Guess what, guys? We're trying to get to 3,000 followers on
No,
LinkedIn.
let's aim 20,000. Let's 10x this, right? Let's get to
I
20,000.
agree.
There's no
We could
reason
do
why
that.
not. This
You
is
just clip a video of Duke on camera and that's it. Like, that's it. Bye. Just hi 20,000. That's it. But thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what's in your morning cup, as I like to call it, in the chat, in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know, do you have a dog? Do you have a puppy? Do you have a Duke? I don't. Funny story though, I think I was like 7, my sister and I really wanted a dog and she's 3 years older and she rode horses. And so one time we were begging my dad to get us a dog and instead they came home from the barn and my dad said, I bought a horse. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not even the horseback rider. It was her pony. I felt gypped. Third
That's
kid's
the
always the one.
richest thing I've ever heard.
It was the craziest thing ever.
So
Yeah.
are you gonna get a dog though, Danielle? Like you've been researching, you feel like are
I've
you ready? When's it
I
gonna happen?
think it'll happen in the like the next year or so,
Okay.
year and a little. Yeah. First
It, it'd be
we
it'd
gotta
be tough.
settle down. Yeah.
Like, you're in New York City, so obviously
Yeah.
outdoor space and everything's a little bit more challenging,
S-
but
Yes.
there's a lot of dogs in New York
The,
City, right?
yeah, there's so many dogs. There's a lot of dog parks, especially within walking distance. I live, near Central Park. I live near Riverside Park. So it's like there's a lot of parks, there's a lot of dog parks. And, I think the biggest thing is that I travel a lot. And of course, I work for myself at the moment, so I'm able to be flexible and work from home. But
Yeah.
the challenge is when you travel,
Yes.
and so getting a dog is an irresponsible choice unless you are able to really know, where it's going to go when you travel.
Do you wanna say bye-bye? Do you wanna say
Oh,
bye-bye?
hey, bye, dude.
Bye,
You're
dude.
so sweet. So sweet and so sleepy. Well, I'm really excited to chat with you today. Thank you so much for joining as my co-host, Serge.
My
It's
pleasure.
it's double the fun. You have Canada, you have the USA represented in the house. So with that, let us get this show on the road.
Let's get started. All right, how about we get started with the company that's helping us put the HR Morning Show together, their marquee sponsor, Kika. Kika is the all-in-one HR and payroll platform. So for those that don't know, Kika is a unified HR, payroll, and performance management platform built to simplify work for modern organizations. Today, there's more than 10,000 organizations and 2 million employees across the globe that rely on Kika to handle their end-to-end HR needs, from hiring and onboarding to payroll, performance, and culture building. So if you're in the market for an HRIS, you should definitely check Kika. Thank you, Kika, for sponsoring the HR Morning Show.
All right. This morning, we have some breaking news, but we also have some market news. So there's a lot going on, kind of in like the broader, economy, I would say, that has a lot of downstream effects. So the first one that's going on right now is breaking news. Cloudflare is having an outage, and Cloudflare basically, and I'm sure Serge can, as a client, I think, can probably explain better what they do. But as I understand it, they basically help, you know, create more secure and steady website traffic, and make a lot of websites work. So basically, a lot of sites this morning are down. You might notice ChatGPT is not working. X was not working. Spotify is having some outages. So there's a lot of downstream impacts of this outage. And the basically they were saying that they have seen a spike in unusual traffic in some of um, its services. So that's basically what they're saying. They're not saying much more than that, which I don't expect them to. But we've definitely been seeing a couple different outages in the past couple of weeks. Serge, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's definitely causing some disruptions. It's causing some disruptions in my day-to-day business as well. And I think you nailed it as far as what Cloudflare does. But also, I don't know if you remember, probably 6 months ago, there maybe a little longer. Like, it all kind of time just rolls together. But there was another Cloudflare um, interruption. So I don't know how long. I know most of the sites have been popping back up, but I just check Chat GPT and it's still not up. So I guess the biggest thing here is, and we're going to talk about fraud. We're going to talk about security with a couple of, or at least one of our guests today. It's like, it's so critical in this infrastructure, this internet infrastructure, that we are secure, because a site going down is disastrous. Like, a lot of these companies are probably panicking right now, and a lot of us that rely on these tools, like Chat GPT. I was trying to prep for the show and I couldn't use it. It kind of scared me.
Yeah,
And then think
it's
about
so
like
true.
Spotify, all of those, right? Like, it's a major interruption. So hopefully they get it back up today, and we can go back to listening to our music on Spotify.
I mean, I just have so many thoughts. I think, like, first, going to what you said about not being able to prepare for the show in the same way that you normally do, like, we have to remember, I think times like these are very humbling, right? Like, it reminds you
Yeah.
that you actually need to have skills like critical thinking in
Yes.
order to function, right? Because we're basically, I see a lot of funny videos on social media about this, like, how people use ChatGPT to come up with responses in dating apps or like in their relationship. They'll like turn to ChatGPT, and obviously it's, making fun of it, but they'll be like, well, my partner just said this, like, what do I say? And then the other person will do the same thing. And I think it's funny because it's kind of accurate, right? As far
Yeah.
as how people are using these tools, and sort of the variety and different use cases that they are using them. But I think it definitely shines a light on the impact, the importance of being, yeah, just like having those skills. And I think also I read in the article that this outage happened when they were doing some maintenance on their data centers. And so going back to your point about security, like, it might be that this happened, during the maintenance because someone hacked them. It
Yeah.
also could just be an outage because they were doing maintenance. So we don't really know, like, the exact reason of why, but my take on the whole thing is that we've really created this infrastructure, we've created a lot of the technology, but without the proper infrastructure. We haven't taken the time to map out where the data centers should be and in what states and in what zones, and how much data do we need, how big do these data centers need to be. I think a lot of that planning is happening now, a lot of the building is happening now, but I think the problem, and why we're seeing these outages, and again, this is speculation based on what I'm reading and seeing in the market, but I think one of those challenges is that the infrastructure is not totally there to support it. And I don't know if you saw the news yesterday or a couple days ago about Ford coming out and saying, I can't hire 5,000 mechanics. Like, I think we haven't trained the people who need to take care of these data centers and who need to help us build them out.
Mm.
So that's another challenge that I think directly impacts HR and the talent economy.
I know you talk a lot about skill trades and trades in general, and I'm glad you do because, especially for your generation coming up, it's one of those things as when I was coming up and going to university was almost not an option, right? Like you had to go get your bachelor's degree. And it was kind of shameful if you went to a trade school. In reality, we have dug ourselves in a hole when it comes to like infrastructure across the board, right? Like in any skill trade. So I think you nailed it. I think the generation coming up, I think the focus has changed completely, and we're going to see a lot more people go into skilled trades. Like a lot of people tell me the next billionaire is going to be a plumber that started his business from that. And I,
Yep.
I totally agree. I think there's definitely, if I had to do it again, I take a trade, then do like a 1 year business degree. And before you know it, you're running 10, 15 trucks, and you're like, the richest people or the most wealthy people I know came up from those types of business.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a sure thing, right? I mean, as far
Totally.
as right now, I think it's more of a sure thing than a white collar desk job, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I, I think it's funny because this whole, the whole, like, go to college, get a degree, whatnot, like, all these people who have been doing these businesses in the background and, like, actually creating the infrastructure to support the economy were probably laughing the whole time. Like, they were probably like, okay, like, let's see how long this white collar,
Yeah.
work stuff is gonna last. And I think they are probably, they've probably had a good laugh, but at the same time, I think they have empathy, right? Like, they're not monsters. But anyway, with that being said, I think this is just one of many outages that we're
Yeah.
probably going to report on. And I am curious, you're talking to Lynn next. I would be curious to hear her thoughts on these outages, and what companies should do to prepare for them too. Prepare not only from a tooling perspective, but also from people, right? How do you prepare your people to deal with an outage that happens that directly impacts their work? And then the second headline that we're going to cover this morning is about the economy. So we're now reporting the U.S. stock market has had one of its worst days since I think the pandemic. And yeah, or since I guess April of this year. But anyway, it's been going up and down. I think because of this AI bubble that people are talking about. Serge, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, so I think we can all see the economy has been struggling. It's probably been struggling for the last year. The labor market is challenged, and I think what we talked about, like the types of jobs, like obviously what I call the stand-up jobs, so trades and nursing, all of those, like that economy is still doing really well. There's still a lot of people looking for those. There's still a lot of companies trying to hire those folks, but when we think about the sit down jobs. So a lot of the white collar, there's definitely a gap in the labor market. A lot of people attribute it to what's going on with AI. I think it's definitely bigger than that. But then when we look at headlines like this with the stock market, not crashing, but seeing a significant downturn, then you look at the companies that are driving this downturn. So like NVIDIA was a big one, Broadcom, Palantir Technologies, which are all in the AI space. I think we're kind of living in, again, like I'll dig in with Aline on this, but I think we're living a little bit of an AI bubble. And I don't mean that this bubble is going to crash. I think very similar to the .com bubble in the early 2000s, some of it was a little bit too early while they were figuring out the infrastructure, and they did build out the infrastructure that we're leveraging to this day, right? So I think we're in a very similar phase of the economy that we're still trying to figure out where AI is going to fit into our day to day, because like we're hearing all the stories about companies that are not able to really implement AI in the way they thought they would. We're hearing about those stories about, hey, we fired 500 people and replaced them with AI, and they're rehiring those folks. I think there's so much learning to do, but I think this is so earth shaking as far as what AI is bringing to the job economy that I don't know what it's going to look like in the next 4 to 5 years. I guess we'll see what the stock market does, but the stock market is kind of just a lagging metric of what's going out there. It's highly speculative in some ways. So I wish I was an economist and I could tell you that the economy is doing well or it's going to crash. I really have no clue.
Yeah, I would say it reflects how people are thinking and feeling in the moment, right? Like, I think I was recently at a future of work, uh, I guess, centric conference. It was kind of like all tech. It was with LG Nova, which is a a part of LG that does a lot of venture and whatnot. And so one of the people on a panel, I don't remember who it was, said that that we're in this cycle right now with AI where companies are adopting it. They're, either at the end of pilots, or, they're wrapping up their pilots, and they're trying to figure out, what is the impact, and walking away from a lot of those conversations, realizing that they haven't necessarily seen the impact that they expected to. And I think, much like you said, it's similar to maybe the .com boom, and it's not necessarily that we're going to see the same type of bust, but I think people are, that's fresh in people's minds, right? It's the most similar to what we're going through now, and they don't necessarily have anything else to base their speculation off of. So you see, oh, this tool isn't working for a company, like I'm gonna maybe change my place in the market and take some of my money out or whatnot, so or bet against a stock. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing, is like this uneasiness. I think what we will see is more clarity in the future on what are the use cases that actually work, especially for a company like Palantir that does so many different things. And it's to the point where it's like a meme now. Like, people don't know what Palantir actually does, which is something they should, probably work on over time addressing. But I think that's sort of what's going on in my mind, at least, is just this general confusion, and then it will clarify eventually. But nothing I mean, personally, I don't look at these types of things and, freak out. I think it's just like a natural
No.
part of the cycle.
No, and I think to that point, I think what may be happening is a little bit of we were so focused on expansion, meaning that like let's get everything on AI, let's move quickly. And I think now we're looking at more optimization than expansion. So we're looking, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what can we double down on that can actually have an impact on our business. And I think that's the advice that I would give to everyone in this particular phase. Like we've seen the tools. We've played with the tools. We've leveraged. We know a lot more about AI in so many ways, from generative to agentic. So at this particular point, I think it's the time that we start, especially in HR, we start figuring out how can we actually optimize how we're leveraging it, right? I think we're gonna see the next little while. I think the labor market is, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think we're going to see more hires because a lot of things that they thought initially that could replace AI, now they're just going to try to optimize and bring in a little bit of headcount to optimize those AI changes. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess the next 6 months is, well, 6 months, I say that. The next 6 months to 6 years are going to be critical in this new phase.
Agreed. Agreed. We will see what happens. So yeah, we'll keep reporting on this story though. I think it's very fascinating. All right. So let's keep the show rolling. I think we have a global report on the way.
Well, hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing good. So you're home and
I'm
you're home for a
home.
little while, right?
I am a couple more weeks. First week of December, I have to pop off to London for a week,
Okay.
but
Just
that's
pop
just
off to
life.
London
Just
for a
gotta
week.
pop off to London for the week, but it'll be fine. Yeah.
So, do you like being at home for extended periods of time, or do you kind of have that itch that you need to be on the road?
I think I do until I get here.
Okay.
Honestly, this is like a joke now at home. I've been home now for almost 2.5 solid weeks. This weekend, I was puttering around, organize because I get like restless, so I start organizing stuff around the house, and I got bored with that. And by Sunday evening, I was saying, "Going, when am I leaving again?" I feel like I've been here for a while, so that's a problem. I think I have a gypsy problem going on.
Okay. Well, I do have to comment on something I saw that I love,
Mhm.
by the way.
Yes.
So, your kitchen cabinets,
Mm,
gorgeous, beautiful blue. Like it
thank
fits
you.
your house from what I could see, right? Like
It
it
is.
seems
It
like
is perfect. I had these. I mean, it's what everybody wants to know about my life. But listen, so I bought this ranch a few years ago, and it had these old kind of 1980s oak cabinets, which were
yeah.
fine. I mean, listen, they were fine. I couldn't really like going and redoing the kitchen was not my thing, but they've been bothering me for 3.5 years, and I bit the bullet and had somebody come in here. I didn't paint them. I had somebody come in here and paint them so that they like look decent, and I'm so excited.
They look good. You're happy with it?
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I immediately turned around and walked the painter back into the back bedrooms, which had been bothering me, and said, "Fix this too." So that's what happens when I spend too much time at home. Home decor projects happen en masse.
So you maybe you were listening into the
Was
headlines. I don't know if you have anything to say on the Cloudflare outage and how the
caused me
whole
a freaking
infrastructure
panic attack this morning.
yeah.
Right? Oh my god. I mean, I'm gonna be serious. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure that I am not the only person, right? I got on this morning and I immediately thought, okay, I gotta like digest all of these feedback notes. I've got to organize for these meetings. I have all this stuff to do. And I sat down, opened up my chat GPT to start plopping documents in there to organize them, and it just froze.
Froze.
And I sat there and stared at my computer, and I immediately did. I don't know. Did you do this? My first thing was I then went to Google and said, "Is ChatGPT down? What? Why is it just me?" So heard about the Cloudflare thing and went through that. And for me, it's back up. Just so you know, thank God,
Oh,
I'm functioning again. But I think this is a big issue for us. One, if for many people, you're talking about it, I'm talking about it. For many of us, our flow of work is now directly connected to a lot of these tools. So, what does that mean in terms of how how we leverage this sort of stuff, and being able, I think, Danielle brought up a great point. Being able to actually fall back on critical thinking will be an interesting thing. What is that going to feel like for people? I mean, I feel lucky enough to say, okay, I do know how to think independently. I pulled out a piece of paper, I pulled my whiteboard over, I started, working analog, and it was fine. I made it through the first, hour or so there. But are
Wasn't it
those
kinda
skills people
nice
have?
though? Like, it was kinda nice. Like, I in a way, I'm gonna say, like, I went everything analog. I just, like, took my pen and paper, be like, "Okay,
Right?
here are the key things I'm gonna focus on," and there was something that I enjoyed about that. Obviously, not I don't enjoy it enough that I wanna do that every single day, but, like, for a moment, right? Like, it's
It's a
like,
nice little
"Okay."
pause. It was a nice little pause, right? Pulled out the pen. Like I said, I mean, it was only an hour. I already had sticky notes
Did you? Okay,
starting to
yeah.
occur, right? So it's interesting how I think we sometimes miss the story here, which is that a lot of these technologies are actually helping us organize our thoughts,
Yeah,
and that's a really important thing for a lot of people, right? We've all built mechanisms by which we do that, but that idea of kind of how you organize thinking and how you structure thought processes and how these tools support it. I think the other big point that you guys brought up, which I think is really relevant here, is think about how much thinking we now do in conjunction with these very kind of open sourced tools.
yeah.
Um, what are the implications there? We don't know why this went down. We don't know what happened. We're never going to know. So everybody just let that go. You're not going to know, right? It could be a variety of different things. But there's a high potential that a lot of this stuff has to do with information getting hacked, people
Yeah.
driving into data, leveraging it. This is every company's worst nightmare,
Yes.
because we know the shadow work that's happening, which is employees en masse using these kind of open tools to navigate and leverage their work. They're sharing information, they're putting data in it, it's being retrieved and leveraged. It has implications to companies at a grand scale. So expect, how about this? I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
Expect in the next week or so, if you're in really very different size companies, you're going to get some sort of IT message that comes down that reminds you you should be using the structured tools as allotted and not free ranging it on your AI tools. Some level, you're going to get some sort of notice about that, and then the second prediction will be nobody will follow that direction because it's
Well,
not
can I
factual.
tell you, your prediction in for me is
Uh,
100% already because I've already gotten that message from
did you-
our IT team at my company, and I've already ignored it. So, but,
yeah,
like, we won't share that, but yeah,
yeah, nobody's listening, Serge. It's fine.
it's fine.
It's fine.
So, Aline, there's a couple of things I was reading one of your posts and it really hit me. It's one that you just I think it was yesterday, and you talked about like how much we tie our identity into work, and
Uh-huh.
it made me think. I'm like, because I tie a lot of my identity to what I do. Obviously, like you have a family, but work always is in the back of my mind or top of my mind of what's going on. And then thinking about everything that's going on in the world of work, I'm like, are we emotionally prepared to for a world where AI takes away part of the work that makes us feel valuable?
Yeah. My thesis is no, we're not emotionally prepared for it.
No.
Nor are we actually thinking through again, consequences makes it sound like there's a choice. This is going to happen, right? We need to be prepared and start thinking about that at a larger scale. So my premise here is this, and there's a lot of data and research out there that shows this, and from a variety of different whether you're talking about sociology or anthropology or biology or chemistry, it's like it's all out there, right? Which basically says the fundamental framework by which people form identity is how they contribute or how they are perceived as contributing to the world. So we relate that
Yeah.
to work. Western cultures, we say that's work. Okay.
Yes.
But that could also be, how you define what you give to your community, or how how you show up in the world in some way. But it's all defined around how we show up. Our identities is how we show up in our work and how we show up in that space. That's why I did a whole bunch of background research this last week that talked about the implications of what happens when people lose work, right? Because we're
Yeah.
going to see more and more of that happening. And the grief stages that actually occur related to that, the people don't even realize they're going through, right? It's being able to say, I don't know who I am in this world that I'm now being judged upon. And it's also the way in which others are looking at us to define who we are, and define and then classifying, categorizing, and organizing us in structures. A geeky thing to talk about, but I think something we all need to kind of start wrapping our heads around a little bit
Yeah.
and saying, okay, well, who am I? How do I define what I contribute outside of just what I contribute in terms of what I get paid for? Is there
Yeah.
is there another lever I can start to frame? And that's going to be a more healthy way for us to start moving, because AI is going to start doing more of this stuff. And the more of the
Yeah.
stuff it does, the less we're going to be able to define ourselves based on that.
But for people leaders or even HR that are listening to it, it's like, how do we help our employees? Because this is not like a career transition. It's a little bit of a identity transition. Like,
Hmm.
how can companies support employees going through this identity crisis? Or it's none of our business, right? Like, it's their thing to manage.
Well, okay. It is a little bit of our business, but not as well. I mean, each individual's got to kind of approach this for themselves. But I
Right.
think what companies need to be aware of is what are going to be the downstream implications for how people choose to show up, right? So
Yeah.
let me put this kind of in a HR leader speak. We saw this, and it's interesting. I started to get notes on this, and I didn't even make this correlation until people started to note it. We started talking about quiet quitting not long ago, right? And we framed it as this idea that people were deciding to continue to be where they were at, cash a paycheck for doing that, but maybe not contributing at the level they used to contribute, right? And we reflected on that culturally as people choosing not to perform at levels that they could be performing.
Yeah.
Now, if we take this lens I just defined and we flip this a little bit, is it quiet quitting, or is it reframing the value of my contribution and where I'm choosing to contribute in order to form identity? Because you don't need me as much as you used to do X, Y, and Z. That changes how an HR leader may think about how they organize work, how they align people to work,
Mhm.
how they help people feel connected to the work that they're doing. I'm going to propose to you that I'm leading up to an argument that eventually goes down the path that says jobs are no longer a thing.
Okay.
But that gets a little deep, and I'm not quite ready to go all the way there with
No.
everybody yet.
Okay.
But I'm kind of starting to frame that story that says, listen, if you if we understand our contribution is who we are and that is our identity, and we have framed it in these containers around jobs, which is the way in which we organize work, because that's the only way we've been able to connect people to the things that we need to get done. If I am no longer forced to put a label on what it is this person does, and instead I start to think about it as, how does this person contribute and how will their contribution evolve over time, maybe that container of a job is no longer relevant.
Well, that's a huge paradigm shift, right? If you think about it, because it's work has been the most important thing or the most defining thing for a
Hmm.
lot of folks for the last at least 100 years.
Hmm.
When you say that, I become a little bit overwhelmed because I don't know how, like, obviously we all have our family, we all have different things, but
Hmm.
like, what's the first question when you go to a dinner party? Oh, what do you do
What
for
do you
work?
do? What do you
Yeah.
do? What's your job? Right? What's your job? What do you do? How do you define yourself? Does it's not even, it's this it's when I shake hands with somebody at the PTA meeting, right? It's not
Yeah.
even work related settings that we do that. You sit next to somebody on an airplane and they say, "Hi, how are you? Why are you flying? And what do you do?"
Yeah.
Right?
No,
So,
100%. I think we're now in a position as employees that I'm glad you brought up quiet quitting, because I
mhm,
think that was the first iteration in being like, hey, I'm not going to push myself beyond the boundaries because I am replaceable, right?
right.
And I think a lot of employees see as like AI is going to replace me, so they're disconnecting even more. We know that AI is not going to replace everyone, but it is going to replace a lot of things, right? Like a
Hmm.
lot of tasks, a lot of different things. So I guess it kind of goes to that disconnect. I think we're going to see this for the next couple of years because people are going to be like, hey,
Yeah. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I think I think it's a topic we need to start getting prepared to
yeah,
have. It is that next evolution from what will AI do for us, which is tasks and how it works, to what does that mean for how we live and exist in this space. So you can have existential coffee moments anytime you want, Serge. I can go off into a riff, and I don't even need ChatGPT to help me form an idea of
no,
a
you're
document. I can do it on my whiteboard with my sticky
well, I
notes.
know you can. That's why I'm so impressed by you. So, before we go, just curious, anything exciting? Obviously, there's always something exciting going on at Smart Recruiters, but like, what does the next couple of months look like?
Next couple months, actually, we're getting ready to gear up yet again, guys. Here we go again. We just finished. Rebecca was just in Gartner and APAC. Just
Yeah,
finished a fabulous keynote there, which was really good a couple days ago. And now we're running forward towards our next big release cycle, which will happen at the end of February, and I think we'll do something big. I'm thinking maybe,
of course.
maybe, Serge, you want to come hang in New York with me for a few hours, and we do something cool and experiential, and really talk about what all this means to us in the future of work.
You know what we should do actually, because we have two of our hosts based in New York. We have a
Hmm.
studio based in New York. Let's
Hmm.
do all of this live from our New York studio. I would love that.
Wouldn't
But
that be fun? Yeah, so that's what's coming up. We've got that, and then beginning of the year stuff, right? We got
yeah,
company kickoffs. We've
can you
got you
can you
know
believe like we're almost like at
no,
the end of the year? Like, can you?
I
It
can't.
feels like yesterday. I was just thinking about it the other night because we did the prediction show in January
Right?
and you were on it. I haven't like I'm trying to remember what my prediction was and
I
if
don't
I
know.
hit it, but like probably not. I don't think any of the predictions
We should probably pull. Well, I'm
we are
sure.
gonna
I'm
pull it.
sure they're thinking about that. We should probably pull that back up again and see what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we need to. So
Yeah.
always a pleasure. I
Great.
love these. Enjoy the rest of
Awesome.
your day and keep up
You
that
too.
mediocre work there.
Okay. Talk soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, Dawn, welcome to the show. How are you? I think you might be on mute. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Well, welcome. Where are you joining in from?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Lovely, just south of me. I'm in New York.
Mhm.
And so I know that this is your first time on the HR Morning Show, so big welcome. So that means that it's also our audience's first time meeting you. So would you mind giving a brief introduction? Tell us who you are and what you do best.
Yeah, so I'm the HR manager at Wound Tech. We're an advanced at-home wound care company, and we are all across the U.S. in California, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Florida. So we have our hands in all different states.
Wow. So wound tech, can you share more about what that means to anyone who might not understand what that means?
Yes, so we have people who are at living at home in different residences and they have severe wounds that have not been healed. And so we pride ourselves on going into their place of residence and healing them in a very short amount of time.
Wow. Very interesting. So I would assume you're using the newest wound care technology out
Yes.
there.
Yep. We
Okay.
always try to stay on the forefront of all the new formularies and all the different products that are out there. We have a
Wow.
wonderful team, our clinical education team. We have our executive directors who are always looking for the best.
Wow. Little known fact, I don't think anyone knows this about me, in this room at least, but my cousin is a biotech researcher
Mm.
in Israel. He's at Tel Aviv University, and he developed, I hope that I say this right, but he basically developed technology that enables people, or I guess him, to reprint people's own organs from their own cells.
Yep.
Yeah, which is wild
Yeah,
technology, and I assume that is the type of technology that also helps with wound care as well.
absolutely. Yeah. Using skin
Um,
substitutes and things of that nature. Absolutely. Anything that's
100%.
going to get them back to a happy, fulfilling life.
Yeah, I love that. So you work in HR at
Mhm.
this company. How do you think like this, working within this space, very niche space, how does that maybe differ from working in other industries, like, your typical tech, or,
Yeah.
finance, or consulting, or whatever? Like, I'm also curious what your background, like, how did you arrive in wound tech? That's like so niche.
It really is actually my background. I have a master's degree in public health. So I started out with injury prevention and doing research. I think I was around 30 when I became a professor at Montclair State University in New Jersey. That's
Wow.
where I'm from. And then when I moved to Florida about 10 years ago, I wanted to get my hands dirty again and get back into the field. I was working with an organization to run free clinics for the homeless. We were trying to combat the HIV epidemic in Broward County. And because of my skill set as an antibody tester when COVID hit, I was deployed alongside the National Guard to help train them to open up all the drive-through test sites.
Wow. It's
So my
amazing.
background is very different. And then I wound up working in the labs doing, the PCR testing and running the external field operations. And after that, it was a little bit much. So I found Wound Tech. It's one of those kismet things that, I saw they had a job opening, thought my skill set could help. And when I met with the VP of HR at that time, they saw that the master's degree in public health was everything that you could just utilize all the skill set for HR. Everything
Mm,
was transferable. I have a wonderful VP of HR now who has taken me under his wing and just kind of taught me the ways. So every day is a new learning experience, and I love being a part of it.
wow. So your background is not necessarily in HR, but you
Not at all.
essentially used your transferable skills to help you create a new career in
Yeah.
HR, which is so cool. I love
Yeah.
that.
And I think it takes the compassion and it takes the drive and everything that you get from that master's in public health, just caring so much about people, that it really was an easy transition.
Wow, amazing. And so while you've been in this role, I want to hear, what's been surprising to you about maybe the role that HR plays that you weren't aware of, and then what have you sort of set your sights on as far as, wanting to change within HR at the company, or like on a larger scale?
That's well, those are two great questions. Something I didn't expect. Um, so because we're across the country, there's always a need. I have my cell phone on me at all times, not necessarily that I have to, but if I finish my shift or, at 5 p.m. on a Friday Eastern time, that means some of our clinicians who are out in the field in California don't finish till 8 or 9 p.m. my time. When they get home and if they're logging into their computer and they're doing something and they need help, I feel it's my responsibility to be there for them, to even just answer a question or tell them, hey, we'll deal with this on Monday. It's okay. So just the need that's always there, and just making sure that we're always caring for our employees and our team members. So that's the biggest thing that I didn't realize, that there's really no shutting off.
Mm.
you're always caring, and that's a good thing. And I think our team members feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the
Love
second
that.
question? Let me think. Where did you?
The second question, sorry, I threw a bunch at you. The second question, it was, what have you sort of set your sights on as something that you're passionate about, want to change, think there could be more potential for?
Yeah, engagement. Just constantly going out there, and in this virtual environment, it's so hard to have a relationship with your team members. So it's very possible that you feel siloed, and you feel like you're working for a company. But what else does that mean? And how are you interacting with your team? Do you know your boss? Have you met your boss in person? So I really would like to get out there more and travel next year. I've met most people. I've been with the company since I believe it's June of 2021. So I've met most people, but I'd really like to be able to just have that conversation and one-on-one and get to know them more as people, and then figure out how we can support them better from an HR perspective.
Yeah. It's
That
hard.
engagement is huge. And, we walk that fine line in a virtual environment. We have team members who go out into the, patients' homes and take care of them, but how are we connecting with them?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it's such a personal, matter that you're dealing with, right? Like, your employees are going into people's homes. They're, it's a very personal thing. It's a very vulnerable thing, right? To need assistance, to need that kind of help and support. And I think what you're talking about, right? The people that are doing that caring for also need to be cared for.
Exactly.
Right? I love like that, pass it on, pass it down the chain. I love that. Yeah.
We tend to wear our hearts on our sleeves, and so we all need support. And so it's just, how are we going to go about that in 2026 to make sure that we support our people who are going out in the field to support others?
Yeah. And I mean, I will say I've heard, I've had friends who've worked in healthcare type companies, and that's not always the case. I think in some cases it could be very toxic.
Absolutely.
And so, how do you think about, recruiting for the right type of people who, have that caring energy? How do you think about recruiting in healthcare and health tech?
Yeah, it's a struggle for sure. Interviews are not always the easiest, right? You're getting that person's representative, but we have a wonderful recruiting team. And they know this company, they know our values, they know our core values, which we have, heart, honesty, excellence, accountability, respect, teamwork. So we have an acronym for HEART. They are wonderful at being able to interview people and really get to their heart, their why, and how they can match with Wound Tech.
Yeah, it's super important. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to share with the audience about the company, or about you, or about reasons to reach out, or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, Wound Tech is a wonderful company. I have poured my heart and soul into it. I feel I've been supported throughout my entire career here. I love the team members. I love our senior staff, and the fact that I have an open door policy with everyone. So I know I can call our CEO today, and he's going to answer the phone. He's going to, if I text him, he'll answer, and that goes with the entire team. So everyone has support, and I think that's just the most important thing to know, is that as an employee, you feel supported, but you also feel valued. So if any company can continue doing that or strive for excellence in that, that's what will make you a success.
Oh, I love that. Feels like a warm hug talking to you. So I imagine that's how people feel at the company as well. Well, I'm great. I love it. Well, I guess people can probably find you on LinkedIn, correct?
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. All right.
And
Well,
you can
thank
always
you.
check out woundtech.net.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I
Thank you.
hope we see you back here soon.
Love to. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mike Fitzsimmons, how you doing? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Excellent.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you on the show again.
Yeah, you bored of me?
It depends on the day, but I'm excited to have you on today because we're going to be talking about something that I'm pretty passionate about, candidate fraud. So, but before we jump into that, for those that don't know you, I'm sure there's a couple of people listening or watching that don't know who Mike Fitzsimmons. Give us a little bit of a breakdown, a quick.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the CEO of a company called CrossCheck. CrossCheck is a leader in hiring intelligence. We're founded with a mission to help organizations fundamentally improve their quality of hire, and we do that by providing a set of tools that range from analytics to help you measure quality of hire, and then a whole bunch of tools to help you improve it. Everything from AI interviewing to assessments and references and things of that nature. So that's who we are.
Yes, and CrossCheck is very well known to really for quality of hire and the tools that you have put together for that. But today, let's talk about something a little bit different. I talk to a lot of HR leaders, a lot of talent acquisition folks, and probably one of the biggest challenges they're coming across right now is fraud. And I was reading a report that says that fraud has jumped nearly 4x in the last 5 years. In some industries, it's like 20 to 40% fraud rate, which like blew my mind. What was the moment that you realized that this wasn't just like a niche problem, a small problem? This could be way bigger.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things. So we all saw the Gartner report where they
Yeah.
said the 1 in 4 by 2028, and we're like, "Oh, you're catching up." We actually think that's a conservative estimate, right?
Yeah.
I will tell you that in 25 alone, we're up to about 11.7% all in fraud detection rate on candidates. That's up about 32% year over year. So in our own internal data, this has just been an up and to the right chart. That's almost like, you don't see many like that. Or like, God,
Mm,
this is just, and it's not something that happened overnight. It's just incrementally getting more intense. To answer your question, I think that, and your prior guest, I feel for her because we are seeing, especially in in-home healthcare as a specific
yeah.
segment, man, we're seeing rates that are in excess of 30%, right? And I think that's like, that is the answer to your question. When you're starting to see some of these extreme cases, where you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is getting out of control. We've got to deal with it." That certainly has been the signal to us. The last thing I would say for context, though, is we're all reading the same news.
Yeah.
Everybody saw last Friday when the 5 individuals committed guilty to the North Korean infiltration, right? 136 US companies were impacted by that, right? The DOJ got involved. Like, we're seeing those cases. That's not really what this conversation's about. It's a part of it. But anyway, I think there's a combination of, the public awareness of the problem and our own internal data of seeing just how acute the pain is.
So seeing this problem, obviously you felt that you needed to fix it, hence you launched Applicant X. Tell us a little bit more what Applicant X is. How do you
Yeah.
flow through this?
Yeah, and I think part of what we realized and what we were seeing around the space is that a lot of companies with good intentions, and it's awesome because we all need to kind of band together to solve this, but they were addressing it sort of in a piecemeal way,
Yeah.
i.e., maybe I have something that can detect in an interview whether the person's a deep fake, or not live, right? Or maybe I can detect that somebody in an assessment was cheating on the assessment with the second browser open, or maybe I can require an identity check at the top of the funnel to try and determine if this person is who they said they are. And the reality is, the more that we talked to customers and looked at the data, we're like, God, this is not a single point solution problem. This is actually a situation that goes from the point of apply all the way through to the point of onboarding, right? So what we've tried to do is build a system that detects signal, what we call our suspicion rating, from that point of apply all the way through to onboarding, to give talent leaders indicators that there may be risk, right? That's really the goal. And when you get into the details behind the scenes, if you think about CrossCheck's background and being in the quality of hire space, we've processed hundreds of millions of hiring transactions. We are really good at understanding signal and correlating signal to outcomes. So our ability to basically infer signal at any point in that process and help you, frankly, build what we call this suspicion rating during that journey is what is at the core of ApplicantX. We had to break this out of our existing applications. So as an example, we already have had fraud detection in our reference checking product forever.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 6 years. But what we realize that the industry needs is a platform level solution, not an application level solution, right? It's important to do it at the application level, but when you zoom all the way back, what you actually need is a way to do this cradle to grave, right, at a platform level.
Can you give me like a real world example of a kind of fraud Applicant X has actually caught? Like, what are we seeing? What have you seen out there?
Well, we talk about this in terms of little f and big F fraud, right? And I think it is an important distinction as we all get our heads wrapped around what do we care about, what do we not care about, especially with AI and the abilities of LLMs to help us kind of manipulate our candidate profile, if you will. But one example, simple example, is around identity integrity, right? And you've seen companies that have rolled out solutions where they're asking candidates to do a full identity verification when they apply for a job. Like, as an example, we think that's a challenging candidate experience. We think that's going to be really tough to do at scale, and we think it's really expensive. So part of what ApplicantX has developed is a lightweight way to do that requires no action from the candidate, that will validate things like the validity of their email, their phone number, their resume, right, their digital domain, where they're coming from, was it a burst application, right? All of those things. And so there's and Serge, these are every day. You'll see that stuff is happening, right? You see a burst apply. You see 100 people applying from the same IP address that can complete their applications in less than 5 seconds. You know there's something off on that applicant, right? But I'll give you some more fun examples. When I think about the resume detection, this is just a fun one, right? We have tools that will help us determine with a high degree of confidence whether the resume was created by an LLM and what percentage of the resume was created by an LLM, right? So, and we might all have different perspectives on what's acceptable in that front, and that's fine. Every company can make that decision for themselves. But if 100% of your resume is created by an LLM, there's a high likelihood that there's something suspicious. What we found, though, is, and you've probably seen some of this, where candidates are now using white ink to ingest prompts into their LLMs to help their LLMs trick out the AI, right? Look at my resume first, move it to the top of the list. And so being able to detect that stuff, it's awesome. And it reinforces the point of ApplicantX. We just know, and I say the term bad guys respectfully, but we just know that the bad guys are going to be better at this than the good guys are. And the good guys being us on the other side trying to detect it, they're always going to be a step ahead. And for us, that's why we said, look, unless you build a purpose-built solution that is trying to look at all of these signals, right? Tomorrow there will be another one, right? We can't get ahead of this thing.
Well, let's think about the candidate perspective on this, right? Because we're asking a lot more from candidates generally before they apply, and this goes through phases, right? Right now, we're in the employer type labor market where we're asking more. The process are longer. Job seekers are a little bit confused, right? They're seeing the lazy apply tools out there that's helping them apply to 1,000 jobs. They're definitely leveraging ChatGPT or any other tool to build their resume, and they don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I don't know if there is anything wrong with it. So, like, what's the advice for job seekers out there to make sure that they don't get caught up in any type of fraud detection or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think that's the goal is not to isolate. This is actually back to the issue around isolated point solutions.
Yeah.
If you were just looking at that problem and you just looked at that problem and as a binary indicator, like that's not appropriate. You actually would have to look at it in totality. If I looked at that, a fully LLM generated resume that was a bulk apply applicant or burst apply applicant from North Korea, just keeping this simple. Yeah, pretty good idea that that's something we should take a look at, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to make sure we separate that. I would also emphasize that getting this right is in favor of candidates. I mean, part of the issue that we have right now for recruiters and part of the value prop around this whole idea is we're getting flooded with applicants that are just a waste of our time, right? They're just, and and subsequently, we are not getting to the quality applicants that are not a waste of our time, right? So I do think just as this is not an candidate thing at all. This is trying to help us, which is all of our quest, to get to our most qualified candidates as quickly as possible. So I really wouldn't, I don't know that I have the advice for candidates other than be authentic, be yourself, and, don't let the LLM do 100% of your.
Well, I think that's good advice, right? Like, I think we've gone a little bit too deep. We're talking a little bit with Aline on that. Is like, okay, there's something that we still need critical thinking. We still need to write a resume, and obviously, I'll admit I've done this. Like, I get ChatGPT to check a lot of what I do to make sure my grammar and things like that are correct. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But going back to the point of fraud in the space and what we're seeing, like, what do you think is causing this? Because this didn't feel like an issue. I've been in talent acquisition for 20 years, right? This was always a little bit of an issue, but the last 5 years, I would say specifically the last 2 years, this has become a major, major challenge
Sure.
for every organization. What was the big shift? Was it AI?
Yeah, and I think this is this is such an interesting one where we think about and we have a slide where we think about where the risk is highest and where the detection is most required. And I think we have different constituents that have different challenges here, right? We have recruiters that are just flooded with applicants. They need to be more efficient in covering through those applicants, right? And one thing that could be really helpful for any recruiter is to make certain that they're not wasting time on applicants, right? That are potentially fraud. So I could attribute that problem directly to AI. I really can. Your ability to apply to a whole bunch of jobs, to manipulate your stuff, to misrepresent yourself. I would also say that the job market being tighter, people are being more aggressive in their attempt to get employment, right? Like, this is actually pretty obvious corollaries. What has been so horrifying for us, though, is the industries where we're seeing this. This is not just like big tech companies. You're seeing this in NGOs. Yeah. We're seeing it in higher ed. We're seeing it in healthcare. Like, we're seeing it everywhere. So the indication to me on that is this combination of a more challenging labor market. Candidates are more desperate, right? Combined with tools that are making it easier for them to potentially cheat. That said, if I go to the other side, and that's the recruiter problem that we're solving, which flows through to hiring managers who are finding themselves wasting time potentially on someone who's not who they said they are. Okay, we can solve those problems. The C-suite problem, the institutional risk problem, the North Korean bad actor coming in and downing an airplane or stealing all of our financial records, okay, that's a different conversation. And I think what the world is doing is conflating those two things, right? And I would say my answer to that other piece, Serge, is a different answer. Right? The answer to the other piece is, hey, there's a lot more bad guys and the tools are a lot more powerful. Right?
Yes.
Right. So like these things are connected, but they are two different constituents trying to do two different things. Right. Like, and we are conflating these two topics because it's an easy thing to do. We say North Korea and we all say, but the reality is you have to look at the goals of the people on the other side, and they do vary based upon those different constituents.
You know, I've lived this personally, being a recruiter, where I interviewed someone and thought they were great, moved them forward. They go to the hiring manager, and the hiring manager was like, "What did you send to me? This was absolutely horrible." And then we recorded every video. I went back to the video, and it was a completely different person, right? And it could have easily, if that person would have been good in the interview, they could have been hired. There was a high likelihood they would have been hired. They just screwed up by being bad in the interview. So it kind of shows you that this is happening out there, and it's definitely a concern. And I think I think you nailed it in looking at your platform, like you're doing at every level, right? Like from top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. But how does this flow into, like, does it tie into their ATS? Like, how does this work for a talent acquisition department? How does it tie in?
Yeah, exactly. And so and I'm glad you called that out, because I feel like in the earlier part of the conversation, we drifted towards LLM resume detection as if that was like the holy grail. And it's not. No. It's just one piece of signal, right? The signals keep happening at every touch point with the individual during the journey. There's a couple of ways we're attacking this. So, and look, as much as we'd like to be able to do this, without the ATS, to do this at scale, that's critical. So we've built this API that basically enables us to plug into the ATS and integrate this into your system at any point in the journey, right? That is the path of least resistance. For large enterprises as well, we're doing integrations directly with them that may have some kind of fully customized sort of system. In addition to that, in our back end, there's a couple of things that the world's not talking about. One of the things is, what do I do? Right? What do I do once I detect this? I've read so many articles of recruiters, especially in your interview examples, saying, I just hang up the phone. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a scalable approach to this, right? And oh, by the way, for all of us that are familiar with this category, when you think about the CRA and adverse action and how we're kind of moving down the path to bias and all the risk associated with this, this has to be done in an organized way. This has to be done in a responsible way. This has to be right. So to that end, we do have a back end console that enables you to manage all of this and understand what the heck do I actually do. But the simple key is APIs that integrate into the ATS as well as into directly into your platform if you're a company that has that kind of scale.
So you're definitely solving a problem that's out there. So kudos to you. But curious, what's next for you? What's ApplicantX is fully out in the marketplace? Where are you at right now?
Yeah, we're just, this is I mentioned earlier, and I shouldn't use the term the bad guys and the good guys, but it does keep it simple. The bad guys are running faster and they're just thinking about this more and they're more resourceful than the good guys. And so the key thing is add signal. It might sound very simple, right? But add signal as much as possible. And there is signal developing every day. And whether the signal is, right, someone did a deep fake on their interview, or whether the signal is that they over generated just think about all the different stuff we can get our hands on to make this machine as smart as possible. And then also training it. I mean, the beauty of LLMs and AI, right, is we can actually train on our data to get smarter and smarter and smarter and understand, hey, that really is that is fraud and that's not, right? So anyway, that's the key, is get more data into the machine and train the models, right? So they will kind of do their thing and get smarter, get as smart as they can.
I think this is going to get a lot of interest from our audience. So if anyone wants to know more, what's the best place to go to find out more about ApplicantX, and what's the best place to get a hold of you if they want to?
Yeah, for sure. So they can always hit me on LinkedIn, or my email address is simple. It's Fitz, Fitz at crosscheck, CROSSCHQ.com. Or they can simply check out crosscheck.com and you'll see there's a banner on there with the press release we did today and a link to all the solutions, and check it all out. And one of our team members would be happy to take you through it.
Well, thanks again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to
fun
have
stuff.
you. And I think every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh, I love CrossCheck. It's perfect Canadian. So perfect, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Guys. Thank you so much. Take it easy.
Take it easy. Into the HR weather. So on today's weather, Nike has announced that it's ending its annual wellness week. So for those that don't know, it's basically they gave every employee a week off that they could unplug, recharge, focus on their well-being. So the program was introduced in 2021 during the height of the pandemic, and Nike's HR leadership described it at that time as priceless. But now, according to Nike's chief people officer, the operating conditions are very different than a few years ago. I think we're all seeing that. And the company must get back to winning. I don't know if that's the right wording, but let's see if it works. What this move signals is a few things for employers and talent leaders. So well-being programs are evolving. So what made sense during the pandemic and after the pandemic, so mass time off, deep unplugging, may not be relevant anymore in this current labor market. So employees got to really like more flexibility, more time off, mental health support that came during that time. But employers must try to figure out a way to balance those expectations with business imperatives such as productivity, agility. The C-suite is watching and they're looking for results. So if we look as HR leaders, what do we do? Because we have to adjust. So we can't assume that well-being programs that made sense 2 or 3 years ago will still fit in our current business. We have to look at all our perks and programs. And I think the biggest thing is invest in the communications. We need to explain the why when we do these changes and show how you're still committed to employee health, engagement, just in a different way. And I think you have to figure out, how do you consider how people are showing up. Like, are they looking to pause and reset? Are they looking to sustain and perform? And that's for every business out there. So the workplace is changing. The skies of remote first, time off first, wellness first are shifting an horizon where business strategy, speed, and agility matter more than ever. So I think we need to adjust. I think both can fit. It's just, as leaders, as HR leaders, we need to figure out how we adjust to the current landscape and climate that we're dealing with. That's the HR weather. Let's get back to Danielle. Danielle.
Where's Duke? I need the dog.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Duke is back
Duke
into,
is my well-being, okay?
yes. I think if you could cuddle with puppies all day, every employee would be extremely happy. But
I
nonetheless,
agree.
Danielle, I think we've seen every time there's a shift in the labor market, where right now we're in an employer-led labor market. Ever since 2008 to probably last year, it was an employee-led labor market. So we did see a lot of shift. And obviously after the pandemic, it just created a great resignation, quiet quitting. We all talked about, so companies tried to adjust to what works and what doesn't. But the current moment, definitely because it's an employer-led marketplace, they're all about driving the bottom line, and a lot of those perks don't feel like it's important anymore. What's
Crack
your
the whip.
take? Yeah,
Crack the
crack the
whip.
whip,
Get the people
exactly.
back to work. This is serious. No, yeah, this is, it's funny because this headline is happening at the same time as, reporting. I think it was the New York Times reporting about, is the 40-hour work week working anymore?
I
And there's two sides of the coin, right? We have like this COVID times where humanity seemed like it was really important to companies, and there was, a lot of showing of that. And I think, the whole wellness week initiative was, I agree with your point of meeting the moment, right? Like, I think
yeah,
it made sense for that moment. It also probably aligned with their values to a certain extent, and also forces people to take time off, also during, like, you know a unified time, which in some cases works better,
yeah,
and in some cases doesn't. But I think overall, this is, to your point, it's about control. It's about getting people back to work. I think it's also the impact of Nike not doing as well, and stacking up as well amongst the competitors, and its challengers, because right now it's a lot less about legacy brands. It's a lot more about niche, up and coming brands. On Cloud has totally taken over the market, as
okay,
yeah, and also Hoka, yeah, and Brooks. I mean, like, I just think that people are, into these, like, newer, fresh brands who like have captured the markets really well through influencer, partnerships, and getting involved in community based initiatives. And Nike hasn't really done that, so I'm not surprised. But I don't think that this is the answer.
no, but that's such a good point, right? Like, I don't think any of these changes would have happened if Nike was still rolling like it was. I think there's been a culture shift, but if you think about those companies you just named, like OnCloud, Hoka, Brooks, um, I have a feeling that their culture is still in there. There's still like those wellness weeks. There's still, I might be wrong. I'm making a complete assumptions, but this is generally how smaller companies come up. There's a high focus on employee satisfaction. And then when you get to a certain size, then you kind of dial that back. But to your point, if Nike is not struggling, I don't think this happens.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a sign of the times. And I think brands come and go. You think of
Yeah.
Puma and Adidas, and
But
with the Stan
Nike,
Smith sneakers, like they've all got, like, come and gone, and reemerged as, newer, fresher companies. Nike, I think, will go through the same evolution. I think it's just a matter of how, like, in my opinion, it's all about product marketing. I think they haven't really been able to communicate their value and how they differentiate against those other brands that have really captured like the runners of the
Yeah.
world. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and while Nike might be spending a ton of money on Super Bowl ads, it's not necessarily where people are consuming their media. So,
I agree. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I think we've seen a lot more of this in the last year,
we
where
have.
companies are refocusing. It all started with like, let's get back into the office. I think that was the first shift, and we're going to start seeing some of these. I would call them fringe benefits, like a week off. They're going to completely disappear. I'm very curious because the first time I came across it was with LinkedIn. I was dealing with someone on LinkedIn. They're like, "Oh, actually, next week we're all off," and I'm like
Yeah,
the
it's
whole
in the
company?
summertime.
Yes, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was great because I think one of the most stressful things when you're on vacation is everyone else is working, and it's like, what am I
Yeah,
missing out? Is there something happening? Is something blowing up? So it makes you check Slack, it makes you check Teams when everyone is off. You don't have to worry about it, and that's like that does relieve a lot of stress, in my opinion.
for sure. And at the same time, I'm sure there are people who still have to work during those times. But
Yeah,
like, I think it's very much a decision. It's mainly a company wide decision, and I think that I would assume that people really benefited from that wellness week. So I think probably people are probably really upset about it. People are probably going to take their all their time off that they can this
yeah.
year to kind of show that they too have power. I mean, at least that's what I would hope that they do.
Well, look at the HR Morning Show. Joel takes wellness weeks all the time. Like, where is he this week? Taking another wellness week, but I guess that's what happens, right?
Seriously. Yeah. No, I think it's yeah, it's definitely a sign of the times. I think the pendulum is gonna swing, but I think ultimately the right answer for everyone is just asking employees what they need and providing that to them.
Very good
Easy
point.
peasy. Then you'll get great work out of them and, everyone will be happy.
So this was a fun show. This is the first time that we've
Great show.
hosted just me and you, and I think we have a very
And
interesting
Duke.
dynamic, right? And Duke, I don't know where Duke is. Duke just disappeared. So
I'm
he
sure
might
he's
be
snuggled
doing
up in a corner by now.
he probably is, or he's pooping on the floor, either one, but, he's doing something he shouldn't be doing.
Oh, so sweet. It's okay. We forgive him.
We forget it. So a couple things to call out, like, we do have on the Purple Acorn Network, we have around 20 shows. Please go to our site, check it out. We are looking for more followers on LinkedIn, so right now we just hit 2,000. Let's go for 20,000. Let's just 10x this.
Easy
And
peasy.
we really appreciate our sponsor, Kika. So if you're in the HRIS market, or even if you have one, you have to check them out. They're growing rapidly in the North American market. And I've seen a lot of HRIS. I hate most of them. I'm going to say that very quietly. I love Kika. I did a demo. I thought it was fantastic. So for everyone, check it out, please. Kika, go check out Kika because our sponsors is why we keep this show running. So if you can support them, we really appreciate it.
Retweet. I love that so much. And don't forget, we are a podcast, so you can listen to us from your car, on your morning walks, whatever have you. Definitely not on your wellness weeks because they don't exist anymore. But we both hope you enjoyed the show. And yeah, we'll see you back here next week, same time.
Next week. Thank you, Danielle.
Bye.